Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speedbuilding video. So in today's video I wanted to do just another little Willow Creek suburban kind of household, like a little family home. And after I've actually done this house, so now I've only got one more house left in this area of Willow Creek. So this is kind of the area where the Pancakes house or household lives. So right next door you can kind of see that is the Pancakes house. I did a speed build on that around about 2 to 3 weeks ago. That is one of my favourite builds I've ever done. I absolutely love it. It's such a simple concept, but it's one that I really like, and it's my favourite kind of thing to build in The Sims. And so this little area I kind of want it to be very similar. And throughout the whole of the world I want to keep a ongoing theme. So in the kind of like starter area of Willow Creek, my last speed build I did a starter house there, and I mentioned in that I want to keep all of the houses looking like they were built at the same time, they had the same developers and all that kind of stuff. And so with this house I tried to make it look very similar to the next door neighbour's house, which is the Pancakes household. Obviously I didn't want to do an exact duplicate of the house, and so I just tried to switch it up a little bit, and I absolutely love it. This build actually took me just over 5 hours, so it's a very long time to build this. I don't know why it took me so long. In the time that I was building this I was able to watch a film and 3 to 4 episodes of Pretty Little Liars, and so it took me a really long time to build this. I don't know what was going on, but I did it and I absolutely love it. So basically the backstory for this household is a single dad lives here with his 2 teenage daughters, and one of the massive things that really inspired me to build this was actually the film New York Minute. Now, New York Minute is a really old film. I think it came out in maybe 2003 to 2004. I'm not sure on the year it came out, but it's a really old film. And in the film it's got Mary-Kate and Ashley, the Olsen twins, and they basically play these teenagers that are completely different. They're twins obviously in the film, and they're completely polar opposites of each other. So we have one who is a perfectionist. She loves like studying, and she's got all these things going on and all these awards and medals in her room. And the other one is the complete opposite. She doesn't go to school. She always fakes going to school, and she writes these fake excuse notes. And the other one's kind of like a bit of a troublemaker, when the other one's kind of a little bit angelic. So she's kind of like what you'd ideally want for a daughter, instead of the other one who's a very troublesome teenager who just causes loads of trouble and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't know what actually made me think of this. I was literally just sitting down one day and I just came into my head to build a house inspired by that kind of backstory. And so the people that live here are just a single dad and his 2 daughters, one with like the kind of perfectionist traits. She's very neat, she is a high achiever, and then the other one just being kind of a very troublesome teenager who probably skips school all the time and probably has like the math skill and programming and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought that was a really cool little backstory to have for this house. And also another thing, when I was actually building this I kind of realised that if you wanted to, you could import the Pleasant family from The Sims 2. So in The Sims 2 there's this family called the Pleasant family, and I used to play with them all the time. I always used to play with, I think her name was Angelina or Angelica or something like that. I can't think off the top of my head. It's been a really long time since I've played with them, but I always used to play with them. And they're basically that kind of backstory that I described. It's a mum, a dad, and then their 2 daughters who are the completely polar opposites. And when I was building this I kind of realised that if you wanted to, you could import them from the gallery, because a little while ago the Sim Gurus put that family onto the gallery, because at the minute they're going around and they're just getting loads of old families from previous Sims games, and they're kind of making them in The Sims 4 and then uploading them onto the gallery if you want to put them in your game. And so when I was building this I kind of realised that the backstory I had and the backstory for New York Minute, the film, is actually very similar to the Pleasant family. And so if you want to kind of relive the good old times in The Sims 2, because I absolutely love The Sims 2, and you kind of want to play with the Pleasant family and you kind of want a house for them to live in, I think this is probably the perfect house for them. With the bedrooms I spent a long time on, I think the naughty teenager is called Lilith or Lillian, can't remember her name, but on the troublemaker or the troublesome teenager I spent a very long time in her room, and I put so many clutter objects and just just so much stuff to make it look like she doesn't really care about her room. She's a messy teenager, and I absolutely love it. Obviously, if you don't want it to be as messy as it is, because granted it is very messy in there, you can obviously just delete a few of the debug menu items and just kind of have it as a normal kind of room. But I kind of went all out when I was doing the decorating for her room. I spent about 20 minutes just going through the debug menu, and I just got so much stuff just to try and make it look like she hasn't cleaned her room in probably about 3 to 4 years, and I really love it. And it's so funny because right next door is her sister's bedroom, who is like absolutely pristine with her room. She have everything, it's got a place, everything's all nice and clean, and it's just funny because they are right next to each other. You can kind of see them doing the floor plan now, and the two rooms that are the similar kind of size are the 2 bedrooms. So I believe the slightly bigger one is actually the troublesome teenager's room. I could be wrong, but I think one of them is just one tile bigger than the other. I tried to make them as in similar size as I could, and that was kind of the best that I could do. And so it's just funny when you look on like the build and you just got these 2 completely different rooms. It's just something that I really like, and I'm really happy with this build, and I'm really happy that I just got the inspiration to build a little family like this, because I'm probably going to create my own family and have their own backstory. I'm probably not going to use a pleasant family in my save file. I'm not completely sure, but I just think it's a lot of fun and it's a really cool little backstory. And the sisters are probably like each other's enemies, and if you've got Parenthood, it'll be really good as well to play it out, because with Parenthood in the trailer you see some teenagers arguing, and I just think it would be really cool and really fun. But moving on, as you can kind of see, the main structure of the house has come together, and I'm just doing a little bit of landscaping. For the landscaping, so I actually had to do the landscaping I think like 3 to 4 times, only in the front garden. In the front garden there was this really big wide space, and I wanted to do this really big grand kind of flower bed with all these different flowers and a fountain in it to kind of make it look like the perfect little house. But obviously it's not, because there's a troublesome teenager in there. But where the space was so big, I really struggled on making it look like it was presentable and it was kind of like a manicured garden, because I didn't want to make it look like it was overgrown or anything. And so in the end I just decided to make the little flower bed a little bit more smaller, and I just think it looks nicer as well that way. So I'm kind of happy that I like ran into all of these different problems with it. It really did take me a long time to do the landscaping in this build, and when I came to like doing the back garden and the surrounding areas, I actually did it quite quickly. And I think it's because I spent so much time looking through all the plants to see what I wanted to go with in this house, and I tried to mimic a lot of the trees and the plants that we have around this little neighborhood. So you might see me kind of zoom out a few times, and that's just me looking around, just seeing what the other houses have and what the kind of surrounding areas look like, just because I wanted to make it look like it matched and it didn't, like, it wasn't out of place basically. But as you can kind of see, I'm moving on and I'm doing the back garden, and I've just done a little bit more landscaping. At the minute I'm kind of obsessed with doing these little bushes and then putting some flowers in between the bushes, and then doing the white ones and then the little like circular pink ones as well. I'm kind of obsessed with doing that at the minute. The first time I did it was actually in my studio, I think it was PBP, I'm not sure what it's called. I was confused when I was doing the voiceover for that video, so whatever the lounge / studio is called in Delta Valley. When I was doing that build, I wanted to make it look like the landscaping fitted in, and in the surrounding areas there was kind of like that similar bush, and then it had them similar flowers, and it kind of merged them in together. And then since I've done that build, I've been really enjoying just doing that for landscaping, because it's so simple but it looks so lovely, and so I've been doing that quite a lot. I'm doing it here as well. I just use a similar kind of bush, not the bush that I was using around the back garden, just a shorter version of it, which I actually prefer this bush. But the other one is more practical because it's a little bit longer and it looks a little bit more realistic, whereas the bush that I'm actually using here is a little bit more kind of smaller and it's not as realistic to me anyway. But one of the things I'm really hoping for soon with maybe a new stuff pack, game pack or expansion pack, is some more plants and trees to landscape with. Now when I use romantic garden stuff it's so much easier, but without romantic garden stuff I've really struggled to landscape, and I don't know what it is. I'm really happy that we have that pack. It's one of my favourite stuff packs that we actually have, just because all the flowers in it are so lovely and beautiful, and I use them literally all the time in pretty much all of my builds. And so I'm kind of hoping that one day we could get like a landscaping pack, or just like a builder's pack, so loads of different clutter items, and loads of bits and bobs that just make a house more realistic, and definitely some more plants, because I literally feel like I use the same load of plants in all of my builds, and it just gets a little bit too repetitive for me. I do love landscaping, but I just kind of want something fresh and something new. We have a few plants with some certain packs, so with Jungle Adventure we got 2 or 3, and it's like that with a few of the packs. I really like the little bush that we got from Cats and Dogs, which I've actually just placed down in these little planters. I absolutely love that. That's probably one of my favourite kind of landscaping items to use when I do my builds, but I'd really like if we could have some more landscaping and just some more flowers and trees and all that kind of stuff. I would really appreciate that. But as you can kind of see, I'm just finishing up doing the garden now, and in the garden I just did like a little barbecue area, there's a swimming pool, there's some planters. I also did actually add the flower arranging table. I was kind of thinking that what I'm going to call the good daughter, as in like the one that's not troublesome and she doesn't cause loads of trouble. I kind of had an idea that maybe she likes to flower arrange and all that kind of stuff, so there is a flower arranging table in the back garden as well. It's just as you walk out the patio door, it's just, I believe, on your left or your right, I can't think what side, but it's up there somewhere. But as you can kind of see, I've now moved it on and I'm doing the kitchen, and I absolutely love this kitchen. I love the way it turned out. So when I was actually thinking about doing New York Minute, I kind of wanted a little bit of reference just for what the kitchen looked like. I didn't try to actually build the house. I didn't try and replicate the house in any way, shape or form. I just kind of wanted to see what their kitchen would look like, because I remember watching the film and really liking the kitchen. And so when I actually googled it, I found this picture, and it's an all white kitchen, and then there's actually a counter, so it's like a breakfast bar, and then one of the breakfast bars is actually a lot smaller than the other ones, and that's why I actually sized down one of the counters. And I've never thought about doing it before, and I actually really like it, so I'm probably going to do it a lot more. But I just used one of the normal breakfast bar counters and kind of sized it down, and then I used the red shelf, which, if you don't know what the red shelf is, it's basically a CC item which just helps you raise clutter to a certain height. And so you can kind of see I've just drawn this little half wall just so I could put it up against this wall. I believe you can get a version which doesn't have to go up against a wall, but the version that I have and the one that I've linked in my description box is kind of one that you need to put aside a wall, so it's easier for you to kind of find the certain height that you want it to. But you just put this shelf to the certain height that you want it, and then you can put these items on top of it, and it's just a really easy object to use, and it just saves you a lot of time, especially if you use move objects instead of pressing the 9 key a load of times, and sometimes stuff floats and stuff. It just enables you to get it to the exact height that you want everything, and it's a really useful object. So I would recommend downloading it. Like I said, it's in the description box if you want to go and download it. I've just called it Red Shelf, and so I believe it's underneath all of my social medias, so if you want to go download it, that's where you can find it. But I did just finish up the kitchen, and now moving on and doing the little dining room. So in here I used the Cats and Dogs table with the Parenthood chairs, and I was actually going to use the Parenthood table, but I feel like I always use that table, and so I thought I'd do something a little bit different and switch it up slightly. Luckily that table from Cats and Dogs actually comes in a matching swatch to the one that matches the Parenthood chairs and the Parenthood table, so I'm really happy about that. But in this dining room, it's just a simple little dining room. It's just got a table and chairs, and it's got the patio door which leads out into the garden. Now I've actually moved on and I'm doing the lounge room, but in a minute I'm actually going to make an archway from the lounge room into the dining room, and so to access the dining room you can either go through the kitchen or the lounge room, and I just thought it was nice that it kind of opens up the space a little bit more. But in the lounge I decided to go for the Parenthood Fireplace. I absolutely love this fireplace, but I never find myself using it. I always tend to go for either the big one that we got with Cats and Dogs, which kind of has a mirror on it, or the one that we also got from Cats and Dogs, which has like a load of brick on it. I never really tend to go for this one that we got with Parenthood, but because I thought that Parenthood would be probably heightened in this house because of the situation that's going on with the daughters, I kind of wanted to use as many Parenthood items as I could, and so I decided to use this one. I also used the Parenthood wallpaper in just kind of like the white and brown swatch. That's one of my favourite wallpapers in the game. I kind of hope that we get some more wallpapers that are similar to this, because I feel like I use this one a lot, and it's kind of the same situation with the sofas. I kind of hope that we get some more sofas soon. I was actually debating using the Parenthood ones in here, but With the Parenthood sofas, they don't come in matching swatches, so from the 3-seater to the 2-seater, there's not actually a matching swatch, so it kind of looks a little bit strange. I did actually end up just using one of the base game sofas that we have in the game, which also comes in a 2-seater and 3-seater version. It's probably my favourite base game sofa that we have, just because it's one of the plainer sofas and it comes in so many different swatches, which I really appreciate. And I believe it comes in a matching armchair as well, so it's kind of like a 3-piece set, but I didn't use the armchair in this one. I only used the 3-seater and the 2-seater sofa. I did also use one of the 4-tile kind of center coffee tables, which I really like, but I used it in the black swatch because I couldn't find a wood that matches with the sofa, and so I just kind of figured that if I had a black swatch, then it would kind of match better than any of the other swatches that we had for that certain item. You can kind of see I'm just kind of finishing up this little kind of TV/lounge area. This is very open, so as you walk through the front door you will be able to see this. I don't really like having loads of different walls and kind of having separate rooms for everything when I do my houses. I've realised this a lot recently. I'm more open to doing more open floor planned than like closing the house off. I just prefer it, and it's just what I prefer to do. But I did just finish off that little area. I put the record player or the music station from, I believe it's Get Famous, and it's kind of like an old school kind of one, and it's got some really nice swatches, and so I just used one of them. I also did just add like a little bookcase, and just as you walk in through the front door, I did just the stereotypical kind of like a little umbrella rack, somewhere to put your hat and coat and your shoes and all that kind of stuff. I really like doing that in all of my houses just because I feel like it adds some extra little realism to the game, and I just really like it. I also did actually add a chess table in this house as well. I thought that the good daughter probably would be really high in the logic skill, or she probably would want to be high in the logic skill, and so I added one of them in as well so she could practice her logic skill instead of having to go to the museum or library or park or wherever's got one of them. I just thought it'd be easy if I put one in this house. But as you can kind of see, I've moved on and I'm doing the little office, so I imagine the dad in this household would probably be a work from home job, or he would have a work from home job, so he'd probably spend his days in this room, and so I wanted to have like a little separate office. This is also kind of like the family computer. Even though both of the girls have a computer in their rooms, I just wanted there to be a family computer and also a space for him to work, and so I did this little office. It's actually right by the garage, and so with the garage in there I just put like a load of different musical items. I imagine the troublesome teenager is probably in a band, and so in the actual film of New York Minute she plays the drums, but sadly we don't have them in The Sims, and so I just had to kind of compromise and use like the DJ station and the keyboard and all the different like guitars and all that kind of stuff. I also did put a microphone in this room as well, just because I wanted her to practice her singing skill. And one thing I want to mention, when I was actually doing this, so I used the garage door at the front of the house to kind of mimic a garage, but when I raised the foundation up, I completely forgot that the garage would look like it's on the foundation, or it was on the foundation, and so to solve it I actually just ended up removing the little garage door and just kind of replacing it with 2 windows, so it doesn't actually look like a garage anymore. Normally I would just go in with the terrain manipulation and kind of raise it up so it didn't look like it was on the foundation, but I had these sidewalk slabs, I believe they're called. It's just kind of like a floor tile, and if you use terrain manipulation, terrain manipulation with floor tiles, it doesn't really work, and so in the end I decided to just switch it out and just have 2 single windows there, and I still think it looks nice. It still gives the effect of a garage kind of thing, because it's kind of got a car in front of it, or not a real car, like a sized up car, which by the way I really hope that we get cars in The Sims, because then I can stop using sized up cars. I know everyone's not a massive fan of them, but I really like creating garages or like houses that look like they've got garages, and I'm always having to use cars and just size them up to kind of give that effect. So I'm kind of hoping that one day that we'll get some cars in The Sims. I kind of personally think it's coming, but that's for another video. But as you can kind of see, I just did the bathroom in there. That is kind of the girls' bathroom, so they both share it. The dad does have an ensuite, but obviously he can share that as well. In his ensuite he just has a shower, toilet and sink, whereas in that bathroom there's just kind of everything. But I just did that really quickly. I didn't do the ensuite just because I didn't want to make the video really long, but as you can kind of see, I've now moved on and I've started furnishing the bedrooms. So to start off, I wanted to do kind of like the good daughter's bedroom, and when I had this inspiration to do this kind of house with this kind of backstory in mind, I knew exactly which wallpaper I was going to use. This is actually a base game wallpaper, which I always see but I never tend to reach for. I really like it though, so I don't know why I never use it, but I just used that in here with some carpet. The rest of the house is wooden floors, and the dad's bedroom is also carpet, but in here I wanted it to look really clean and polished, and I just thought carpet would look better than wooden floors. But as you can kind of see, I used the cats and dogs bed in the, it's actually a white swatch I believe, but it's pink, so if you were to look at the swatches preview, I believe it looks like it's a white swatch, but it's actually just a pink one. But I used that with a matching cats and dogs table or bedside table and just cluttered that up with a few objects. In here, as you can kind of see, I wanted her to look like she's achieved so many things and she's a really good student, and so I used the kids room stuff. I think it's just like a shelf or just like a wall decoration. It looks like it's got a load of different medals and awards on it, so I used that. I also used, I believe it's a base game ribbon as well, just looked like she's won loads of different prizes and awards. And then I also did just use the Parenthood, I think it's the, I don't know what it's called, but it's the board where you can kind of like leave notes and set a curfew and all that kind of stuff. When I actually came back and just went in and did the screenshots and all that kind of stuff, I actually wanted to add a few more awards, and so on her desk I did actually add one of them little scientific awards. So maybe she entered a science competition or something like that, and so I put one of them on her desk. And then I also added the music award, the one that's like a little musical note. I added that onto her little dresser, which I've just kind of finished up now, just because I really wanted to give the effect that she is a really good student. She wins loads of awards and she's just a really good student, and academically she's really smart and all that kind of stuff, so I wanted to add as many of them as I could possible. I do actually imagine that she's probably in the scouts, or she's probably really high up in the scouting after school activity. But I did actually add some of them awards onto her little windowsill, so I created a fake windowsill just using some shelves that we have in the game and just kind of raising objects up. So if you want to kind of have her as a scout and you want her to win all the awards, you can just delete them and just add them back in as she earns them. But moving on, we're now doing the troubled teenager's bedroom, and you can just kind of see that the contrast in the difference of bedrooms really reflects on the personality that I was trying to bring over into this house. So obviously this sim is going to be like a really troublesome sim. She causes lots of trouble. She's probably really high up in the mischief skill. And so you can just kind of see the contrast in the room colours, definitely, because the other sister has this like really light and colourful and just clean room, whereas the other sister, who I imagine is her twin, has this completely dark room. It's kind of like her little den, and yeah, it's just really funny if you look at it, because they're literally polar opposite bedrooms, which I really like, and it was really fun just decorating two completely opposite rooms for two completely different people. I just thought it was a lot of fun, and I'm probably going to do something like this in the future again, just because I really did enjoy doing this. But as you can kind of see, I'm just got a load of different objects from the debug menu. Like I said at the start, I spent about 20 minutes off camera just going through and getting so many different objects that I wanted to use in here. So I got a mixture of air horns and fake coffee cups, or not fake coffee cups, like used coffee cups, and some party cups and red cups, and like a fire extinguisher and bits of food and stuff. One of the things I actually added around this room, which does sound really disgusting, but I feel like it's a little bit realistic, is I added some like sandwiches, like half-eaten sandwiches. I feel like she probably hasn't cleaned her room in many years, and so I just get these sandwiches, which I think it just came with the base game, I believe, and I just kind of have one half and I have like the other half on the other side of the room somewhere. And I just think it's funny because it's a little bit realistic, and it really does give the effect that she does not clean her room, and so she's got all this food and all this mess and just all of this junk in general just all scattered around her room. So as you can kind of see, I spent a very long time just cluttering up this room with loads of different things. I also got some vampire tombs, which you can get from the debug menu. Your sim can actually just buy them from the computer once they learn a little bit more about vampires, but I just thought that they fitted this room's aesthetic so perfectly, and so I decided to add them onto her little like kind of chest of drawers kind of area. I used the one that we got from Parenthood, which kind of looks a little bit cluttered itself, so I didn't actually have to put any clutter in between the drawers or anything, because this one kind of looks a little bit messy and a little bit more like a teenager's chest of drawers anyway. But all the objects that I actually use in this chest of drawers are very random, so I've just got some like vampire tombs, and then I've got some packages, and then I've got some makeup and hairspray, and I've got a little wad of cash, which I actually also put in between the bookcase as well. I mean, I don't know why she's got a wad of cash. It seems a little bit sketchy, she, but she's got some cash laying around her room as well, which I think is quite funny. But I'd literally just cluttered up that area as much as I could. I don't think there was a dead space in that little chest of drawers area, just because I put so much on there. I also added some posters that we got with, I believe it's kids room stuff, or maybe it's base game, I can't remember. I think it came with either toddlers, like the toddler update, or the kids room stuff. But I use these posters of maybe possibly a band that she likes, and then I actually end up putting some wall decorations, which looks like her kind of wardrobe on top of them, so it kind of looks like she's got a load of posters in her wardrobe, even though it's not actually her wardrobe. I just kind of really like the effect, and in the film her wardrobe is actually a mess. Like, you will see it in the film if you ever go and watch the film, or if you want to go and watch the opening scene to the film. It's actually kind of really funny because it shows both of their distinct personalities in the opening scene, so you can go and find it on YouTube. It's really funny. But when she opens her wardrobe, there's literally like all these messy clothes, and there's like packets of crisps and all these different things all in her wardrobe, and so I wanted to kind of give that effect in the room, and so I just kind of added them posters just behind that little wall, and added them little kind of wall decorations to kind of mimic a kind of wardrobe. But I'm just kind of going around and just cluttering up the room a little bit more. I can't believe how much clutter I actually put into this room. Like I said, if you don't want it to be this messy and you kind of want like a kind of hygienic sim to live in here, you can just delete loads of the food and stuff like that. I just really wanted to give the illusion that she was really messy, she didn't care about her room and all that kind of stuff, and so I literally just went all out with the messiness and the clutter and all that kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed making this room and just decorating it and just finding loads of different pieces of clutter which I wouldn't normally tend to use. I'd never thought I'd actually use the little food samples that we got from City Living in a room, but I did today because I used them around her room to look like she's maybe dropped food somewhere and all that kind of stuff. But I had a lot of fun at doing that room. But anyway, I'm now just furnishing the dad's bedroom, so you don't actually have to have just a single dad live in this house. It's just kind of what I imagined. I did kind of debate it for a little while, but in the end I just kind of settled on the fact that it will probably be a single dad living in this room, but it can be for 2 parents or however many parents you want to live in this house. But it's just kind of like a nice kind of neutral parent bedroom, because I don't want to ever give my parents too much personality in The Sims, just because I don't know, it's just something that I do. I always just tend to go for very neutral bedrooms with mums and dads. But as you can kind of see, I use the cats and dogs bed, which is the same bed that I use in his daughter's bedroom, but I used it in a different swatch. I mean the good daughter, not the bad daughter. I just used it in like this kind of brown swatch, and then I also use this base game wallpaper in this kind of brown swatch as well, which I really like. And I just used the similar furniture from Cats and Dogs for his bedside table, and then I also did just use a get together wardrobe just as kind of like his little space where he can store his clothes, and it's his wardrobe, so he needed one. But anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover here. As always, the build details and my origin ID will be in the description box down below, so if you want to go find me on the gallery and all that kind of stuff and download this house, then you can. But as always, I really hope you enjoyed watching this, and as always, if you do like my content, then please subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedbuilding video. Bye guys!